I stayed with my wife after she cheated with my best friend. We moved, started over, and I tried to forgive. Years later, she confessed to a threesome with him and his wife while I was passed out in the next room. You think you'd leave after the first betrayal. That's what people say. You imagine yourself slamming the door, packing bags, screaming at them to get out. You think your rage would be enough to give you strength. But what if you didn't even see the betrayal? Or worse, what if you helped it along without realizing it? I've been married for almost 27 years. We were high school sweethearts, married young, built a family, survived the chaos of diapers and bills and long nights with sick kids. I used to think we had a strong foundation. Church every Sunday, community potlucks, Christmas photos with matching pajamas. But underneath the model family image, something ugly festered. It started with a kiss. That's what she told me. Anyway, one kiss, then a few more. Just kissing, she swore. On occasion, hidden behind closed doors at gatherings, whispered conversations, inside jokes that weren't really jokes. And it wasn't just some stranger. It was my best friend, the guy I'd known since middle school. He and his wife moved in across the street from us during the early years of our marriage. We were in our 20s. Life was messy but full of promise. We trusted each other. Too much. By the time I learned about the affair, it was already over, or so she claimed. She told me the first time around had been a mistake, fueled by boredom, proximity, attention. She said he made the first move, and she let it happen. That it was nothing and it was done. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Because if I didn't, the whole structure of our life would collapse. We moved away not long after. Not far, just enough to start over. I was working long shifts at the time, even some overnights. She was mostly home with the kids. We still saw our old friends occasionally, but I didn't think much of it. Until, unbelievably, we ended up buying another house, across the street from them again. Different town. Same proximity. I should have known better. But I was tired. I was trying to provide, trying to rebuild trust, even if it was built on sand. Years passed. We had more kids. We blended our lives with church groups and shared holidays. It looked like redemption from the outside. But inside, it felt like something was always off. My gut whispered at me, but I silenced it. Every time she laughed a little too loud at his jokes. Every time he dropped one of those strange, teasing comments around me, laced with something that felt smug. The worst part? There was a night sometime in the early 2000s where I passed out drunk in the other room while they were all over at our house. I don't remember anything about it. But years later, she confessed what she called the event. A threesome. Her, him, and his wife. She said it was weird, that no one enjoyed it, that it only happened once and nothing really happened. She claimed he didn't even finish, as if that made it better. She swore she shut everything down after that. I wish I had walked away then. I wish I had left, taken the kids, burned it all down. But I didn't. I stayed. I convinced myself that people make mistakes, that healing is possible, that love is about forgiveness. Looking back, I realize I was just scared. Scared of starting over. Scared of the truth, scared of being alone. So I buried it. I didn't tell friends. I didn't tell family. We didn't go to therapy. I put all my faith in God and naive optimism and the idea that time would erase the shame. But it didn't. Because it wasn't over. And what happened next was even worse. Update 1. We weren't just high school sweethearts. We were trauma bonded. She came from a chaotic home. Her dad drank. Her mom yelled. I was the safe one. The boy who didn't raise his voice. Who brought her sandwiches when she skipped meals and held her hand through her parents' screaming matches. I had my own issues too. Grief from losing a sibling, a mother who coped through silence. We found comfort in each other. Stability. A shared pain that felt like intimacy. She was 17 when we started dating. I was 19. She moved in with my family after her dad kicked her out. I proposed that winter. Everyone said it was too fast, but we didn't care. We were each other's escape hatches. And by the time she turned 19, we were married. She was pregnant 2 months later. It was never easy. But for a while, it felt like we were building something real. We worked opposite shifts, passed the kids off like batons, tried to make date nights happen once a month. We joined a church, got involved in community events, smiled for every camera, even when we were running on fumes. It looked like a good marriage from the outside. I didn't know the cracks had already formed. The affair started around year 4, 1998. I remember that year clearly because it was the first time I'd ever seen my best friend's wife cry in our kitchen. She said her husband, my best friend, the man I trusted with my kids, the guy I played pickup basketball with every Thursday, had cheated on her. She didn't have proof, just a feeling. Irony. It doesn't hit you until it's too late. They moved in across the street from us earlier that year. Our kids became best friends. They were over all the time. Dinners, barbecues, sleepovers, and of course we shared everything. Struggles, laughter, secrets. Sometimes too much. One night while the kids were in the backyard and we were cleaning up dishes together, he leaned over and whispered to my wife. She laughed, a little too loud. He touched her wrist. I saw it. I remember that specific moment. My stomach flipped, but she brushed it off. He's just being silly, she said. Now I wonder if that was the start. She confessed years later that it began with just kissing. Always in private, a back hallway during a party, behind the garage while grabbing drinks, once in our laundry room when no one else was home. She said it was emotional, not physical. That it was about attention, not intimacy. That she never thought it would go anywhere. That she didn't even like him that way. But she kept letting it happen. I worked nights then. 12-hour shifts, sometimes 14. She was home alone most evenings. He worked from home. Sometimes he'd drop by to check on something, help with a project, return a borrowed tool. At the time, I didn't think twice. Why would I? This was my best friend, the godfather to one of our kids. What kind of monster watches you work yourself to exhaustion so he can sneak into your home? What kind of woman lets him? Eventually, his wife caught on. She confronted my wife. There were tears, a fight, a late-night knock at our door. My wife told me they had a disagreement and that she was jealous over nothing, that she was just imagining things. I believed her. I wanted to. Then we moved. 2001. New house, new town. A chance to start over, except the joke was on me. We ended up, by sheer absurd coincidence, buying a house across the street from them again. Different neighborhood, same street layout. I thought maybe it was fate. Now I think it was a setup. Maybe she wanted it. Maybe he orchestrated it. Maybe I was just too exhausted to fight it. Whatever the reason, the proximity brought everything back. I was working even more by then. Double shifts, weekends, trying to keep up with bills and tuition and groceries for 3 growing kids. And while I was working, they were over. Always over. She said it was for the kids. He helped fix our plumbing. She helped watch their toddler. I'd come home at 3 a.m. and find 2 empty wine glasses in the sink, but we were just talking, she'd say. You worry too much. The gaslighting was slow, gentle, wrapped in smiles. And then came the night. I call it that because that's what she called it when she finally told me about it, years later, in 2008. The event, she said. Like it was some abstract moment she didn't take part in. I'd been drunk, like blackout drunk. I don't even remember how I got that way. Some party, some church function? I don't recall. What I do remember is waking up in our bedroom with a splitting headache, my clothes half off. The rest of the house was quiet. Turns out, while I was passed out in the next room, a threesome happened. My wife, him, and his wife. I found this out not through a confession out of guilt, but during a fight about something else. She blurted it out, said she wanted to be fully honest. She described it like it was some failed science experiment. It was awkward. He didn't finish. She kissed me. I didn't kiss back. We stopped before anything happened. And again, like an idiot, I stayed. She said she shut everything down after that. That it was a mistake, that it made her feel gross. That she didn't want him anymore. That she was ashamed. I wanted to believe her. I needed to. I had 3 kids, no backup plan, no real proof of anything other than what she told me. So I let it slide. We never talked about it again. We buried it like toxic waste and prayed it wouldn't resurface, but it did. Over and over again. The betrayals continued in subtle ways. Phone calls at odd hours, texts she deleted, stories that didn't add up. Every few months, my gut would whisper, something's wrong, and I'd silence it, for the sake of peace. For the sake of the kids. For the image. At some point, I stopped questioning the lies. Not because I believed them, but because I didn't want to know the truth. Knowing would mean admitting I'd failed to protect my family, that I'd been played by the people I trusted most, that the woman I'd built a life with didn't respect me, maybe never had. Knowing would mean I'd have to do something about it. And I wasn't ready yet. Update 2. There's a moment when denial stops being a coping mechanism and starts becoming its own kind of betrayal. By 2008, everything inside me was hollow. I was still playing the role: husband, father, provider. I coached Little League. I mowed the lawn every Saturday. We sat in church as a family and held hands during the closing hymn. From the outside, we looked healed, like a couple who'd survived a storm. But inside, I was dying. The night she told me about the event, the threesome, was a turning point, but not the one I wish it had been. It should have been the moment I left, the moment I drew a line and said, "That's it, no more." But instead, I froze. I told myself it was just one incident, that she regretted it, that she told me because she wanted to come clean. That counted for something, right? I couldn't face the fallout, the custody battles, the church shame, the financial destruction. So I did what I always did. I chose survival over truth. And in doing so, I made space for the betrayal to continue. The next few years were filled with half-truths and gut feelings I refused to investigate. I found text messages between her and him, deleted, but not well enough. "I miss your voice." That night, it meant something. When I confronted her, she claimed it was old, left over from before she shut it down. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I told myself, no proof, no context. Let it go. She swore she wasn't sleeping with him, that it was all emotional, never physical, that if something had happened, it was in the past. I clung to that like a lifeline. I needed it to be true. And then she told me about his wife. Apparently, at some point, it shifted. He pulled back. His wife leaned in. My wife claims it wasn't planned, that it was emotional support turned flirtation turned something else. A kiss here, a touch there. Then one night, oral. From the wife to her. But it was awkward, she said. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't reciprocate. It never happened again. Like that was supposed to make it better. I started to lose track of the stories. The timelines never matched. The tone shifted depending on the day. One week it was never physical. The next it was just one time. I couldn't tell if she was minimizing the past or still actively hiding things. I pulled phone records. I needed something concrete. 10 months of late-night calls between her and both of them. Sometimes short ones, sometimes hours. Always between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., the hours I was gone or asleep. When I showed her the pages, she said it was just talking. When I asked why, she cried, "I don't know, I was lonely. They were there. It wasn't like that." But it was like that. And we both knew it. What crushed me more than the intimacy, or whatever version of intimacy they were calling it, was the intimacy, the loyalty she gave to them that should have belonged to me. She let them into our home, into our marriage, into her. And she gave me the scraps, the version of her she thought I could handle. I started seeing a therapist around 2010, quietly. I didn't tell her at first. I wanted someone to tell me I wasn't crazy, that my suspicion wasn't paranoia, that I hadn't made it all up. The therapist said something I'll never forget. "You're trying to forgive someone who hasn't finished betraying you." It hit me like a brick. I was trying to heal a wound she was still picking open, but I stayed. Again. The kids were teenagers by then. 1 in college, 2 in high school. I told myself I was staying for them, for their stability, for their image of a whole family. But the truth was, I was scared to start over. Scared of what it meant to admit I'd wasted a decade clinging to someone who didn't choose me. We had more close calls. One day I came home early and found her on the phone. She hung up fast, said it was work, but her face flushed, her voice shook. That gut feeling returned, that deep animal part of me that knew she was lying. But I said nothing. Another time, I overheard our youngest asking her why Uncle Mike, my friend, wasn't around anymore. My wife snapped at her, "We don't talk about him." Something had ended, but I wasn't sure what. She didn't offer anything. I didn't ask. We lived like polite strangers under one roof. Shared bills, shared holidays, shared secrets we never acknowledged. Every once in a while, she'd initiate intimacy. Almost mechanically, like she was checking a box. I never felt more alone than when we were in bed together. Her eyes were closed. Mine were wide open. I fantasized about cheating, not for pleasure, for revenge, for balance. I never went through with it, but I thought about it often. about what it would feel like to be the one doing the damage instead of absorbing it. But it wouldn't fix anything. Just more rot on top of rot. There was a moment around 2015 where I almost left. I had a suitcase in the trunk, a deposit down on a one-bedroom rental. I told her I was going to a work conference, but I drove past the house 3 times before going in. She was asleep on the couch, our dog curled up beside her. The kids were home from college. There was a puzzle on the dining table, laughter echoing from the living room where they were watching a movie. And I caved. Again. I hated myself for it. The years bled together. We kept up appearances. We went to our daughter's graduation, held hands in photos, smiled at church. But the truth lived in the quiet, in the way we avoided eye contact, in the separate bank accounts, in the silent dinners and forced anniversaries. I don't know when I stopped loving her. Or maybe I never did. Maybe I loved the idea of her, the girl I met when we were both broken and hopeful. The version of us that might have been if things had gone differently. But I do know this. I stopped trusting her a long time ago. And without trust, love is just inertia. Update 3. It's 2025 now. The kids are grown. The house is too quiet. My wife travels often for work, sales conferences, retreats, expos. She's gone 3 to 4 days at a time, staying in nice hotels, dining in upscale restaurants. I used to worry about it constantly. I'd sit at home, obsessively checking her location, rereading old texts, watching the clock until she called. Sometimes she wouldn't. Long day, she'd say. Fell asleep early. But these days I barely look. Something in me has snapped, not out of rage, not even apathy. Just clarity. I'm not okay. I have nightmares now. Dreams where I walk into the house and find them. My wife, my former best friend, his wife, all laughing at me, telling me it was never just once, that it was every week. That even the kids knew, that I was the punchline of a long, cruel joke. I wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, feeling like I'm still in the dream. Some days I think I'm finally losing it. Other days I think this is the most sane I've ever been. So I did what I should have done 20 years ago. I started therapy. Real therapy. With someone trained in betrayal trauma. And for the first time in decades, I said everything out loud. Not the sanitized version. Not the "it was just a kiss once" version. All of it. The backroom flirting. The late-night calls. The threesome. The repeated lies. The gaslighting. The shame. The confusion. The way she made me feel like the paranoid one for asking questions. My therapist didn't look shocked. She just nodded and said, "You've been surviving. Now it's time to decide if you want to live." That line stuck with me. So I gave my wife a choice. A real one. I sat her down and told her, "I know what happened. I don't need any more stories. No more minimizing. No more timelines that don't add up. If there's anything left, anything you haven't told me, this is your chance. Full honesty, or we're done. Not separation. Not trial counseling. Done." She didn't answer right away. She stared at her coffee for a long time. Then she looked up and said, "I told you everything that matters." And that's when I knew. Not just that she wasn't telling the whole truth, but that she might never be capable of it. Because to her, everything that matters means what she thinks I can handle. It means what won't make her look worse than she already does. It means what keeps the family together. It doesn't mean the actual truth. That conversation was my breaking point. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just sat back in my chair and thought, this is the woman I gave my entire life to. I still love her, or maybe just the version of her I created in my mind, but I no longer trust her, and I'm not sure I ever truly did. Not when it counted. We've started marriage counseling. At her request, she says she wants to make things right. But I don't think she understands what that would even take. Not just transparency, not just accountability, but a willingness to sit in the fire with me, to hear how deeply she broke me, to accept that healing might take years, if it ever comes at all. Some days I feel hope. She holds my hand more, asks questions, tries to connect. Other days I see the walls come back up, the passive defensiveness, the subtle tone shifts when I bring up the past. And I ask myself the same question every time. Why am I still here? The truth is, I don't know. Maybe because I want to see if she's capable of change. Maybe because I want to heal, even if it means walking away eventually. Maybe because after all these years, I want one part of this story to have a clear ending. Not another half-truth, not another ghost memory. I'm still in therapy. I'm journaling. I'm setting boundaries. I'm reclaiming pieces of myself I abandoned long ago. I've stopped blaming myself for what she did. And I've stopped telling myself that loving someone means tolerating everything they do. What happens next? I don't know. But for the first time in decades, I'm not lying to myself about what's already happened. Update 4. Some nights I still stare at the ceiling and ask myself one impossible question. What if I'd left the first time? Would I have spared myself all this pain? Or would I have just traded it for a different kind? That's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. It's not just the cheating. It's not just the intimacy or the lies or the secrecy. It's the after. The way it changes how you see the world. The way it rewires your ability to trust your own instincts. The way you start questioning everything. Not just them, but yourself. I used to wonder if I was weak for staying. Now I think I was just trying to hold the broken pieces of my life together with whatever I had left. For the kids, for the family, for the version of the story I wanted so badly to believe in. But the truth doesn't care about your story, it just is. The kids know something's off. They're grown now, smart, perceptive. They see the way we interact. The polite distance. The avoidance. My son asked me recently, "Are you guys okay?" I told him the truth. We're working on it. Because we are. Sort of. We go to therapy every Thursday. We talk. Sometimes she cries, I cry. Sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we say nothing for an hour. There are moments when I see the woman I married, kind, gentle, trying. And then there are moments when I see the woman who let me drown in silence while she fed her ego with other people's attention. She says she wants to make it right. I think she means it. I also think she doesn't fully understand how far the damage goes. She wants a timeline, a checklist, a plan to move forward. But healing isn't linear. It's messy. It's a loop. Some mornings I wake up hopeful. Other mornings I wake up haunted. I don't know if we'll make it, and I'm not sure I care anymore about what making it even means. Staying together isn't the goal. Truth is the goal. Peace is the goal. And if we can't have that together, I'll find it on my own. Because now I know something I didn't before. I deserve to feel safe. I deserve honesty. I deserve to wake up and not wonder what's being hidden behind a soft smile or a vague text. I'm not the same man I was 20 years ago. I'm not the same man I was 2 years ago. I've learned that love without trust is just fear dressed up in a tuxedo. It looks good, but it'll never last the ceremony. So here I am, in limbo, between what was and what might be. Between a wife who says she's ready to rebuild and a version of myself who isn't sure if there's anything left worth saving. To anyone out there asking, can a marriage come back from this much betrayal? My answer is, maybe. But maybe the better question is, should it? And only you can answer that.